When you volunteered, I was glad to say yes because it's terrible. It's just terrible, and I have a lot of friends that had something similar happen, but it was just it was kind of something they didn't want to do. So your willingness to do this is amazing. So now, how did your son come into the picture?
3 years later,
Okay.
almost 3.5 years later, he was not planned. It was surprise.
Mm-hmm.
But I always wanted, a girl and a boy, and that was it. Ex-husband was very, very happy that we're having a boy.
Mm-hmm.
He has a previous child. I get married, we have her, then we have our son. Ex-husband was never violent, never showed any signs of violence. It was the happiest time of my life.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of forced me to have my tubes tied after having my son. I wanted a whole bunch of kids, and after him, we had my tubes tied, and I was living the dream. I was had both of my children, and I was very, very, very happy. And then one fateful night changed my whole entire world forever.
Mm-hmm.
We were going, like I said, she was 3.5 years old. We were going to the Frosty Parade in Wallingford here in town, and I was supposed to take my son with me, but it was really, really cold that night, and my mother said that she couldn't watch him, so my now ex-husband said, I'll watch him, no big deal. So he watched him. Son was fully dressed, tried to give him the bottle before I left, and he didn't want to take it. He was full, so he goes, don't worry, I'll feed him. Again, my son was fully dressed when I left. We were gone probably 45 minutes, if that. We walked with Frosty down to the gazebo. My ex-husband called his sister who was with us and my ex-mother-in-law and said that there was something funny with my son, that he was breathing funny. Okay. So we were like, he used to overreact a lot and over-exaggerate stuff. So we really didn't put much faith into it.
Mm-hmm.
We were like, yeah, Well, my sister-in-law did. And so we continued. And then he called back, and at this point we were coming back. And I remember saying, there was a fire truck that went by, an ambulance. And I said, here we are having fun, and somebody's having a terrible time right now. Somebody's having a tragedy. Lo and behold, within 5 minutes, it would have been me having this terrible tragedy. So we left, and the phone rang again, and it was my ex-husband telling my sister-in-law that he's hurry up home, he's not breathing funny. By this point, we fly home. Now, we lived on 65 Constitution Street in Wallingford, and I flew up the stairs, and my son was in nothing but a diaper, and he was as blue could be. And I was in shock. I called 911 immediately, and he took off. My ex-husband took off. And I said, she can't see this. Get her out of here. She doesn't need to see this. And I'm talking to the 911 dispatcher. He never called 911, my ex-husband. And my son was down for over an hour, not breathing. They paddled him. They did everything they could to get a pulse back. They finally did. We were then rushed to Hartford Hospital, where he remained on life support for 2 weeks. At first they were saying It was shaken baby syndrome, and I had never heard of that. And it's something that I feel that with these young mothers today, that it should be definitely enforced and definitely talked about. And you know, there's not enough information about it that to see the signs of it, because I didn't see any signs of him being shaken at all. And so the first week I was in denial until the hospital actually showed me what it took to cause the injuries that were done to my son. There's 7 chambers to the brain, and on the 7 chambers of the brain, my son's his head was like scrambled eggs, and there was only about this much of his brainstem that was functioning. So the hospital told me that I would not be able to keep him in this state. He would never know who I was. He would never, if he lived, I would never know where, you know, if he died or not, I would never know. And I said, he made his first breath with me, and he's going to take his final breath with me. So on December 19th, I chose to take him off life support, and he died in my arms. And my ex-husband served 6 months for manslaughter in the 1st degree.
Would you say that was like your worst day of your life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What gets me by, and what got me by, because I was at the hospital morning, noon, and night for 2 weeks. My ex-husband never showed up. And if he did, it was for short times, and he never knew the severity of the damage. It's either that or he couldn't face what he did. I asked questions to my son, and the nurse said, "You'll get your answers." And I kept saying, "Who did this to you, baby? Who did this to you?" And when he would walk in the room, his temperature would spike up to 105, 106. And then as soon as he left, it would go right back down. It was almost like he didn't care. He wasn't there. And as a parent, you're there for your child, no matter what. And he wasn't there, you know? And then I got my answers at that point. I was like, yeah, you did this. You definitely did this. They found my son's pajamas that he was wearing that day in my my bathroom under the sink. What are you trying to hide? The detective that was on the case was related to the family. He was on the case for 12 hours, and then boom, he was gone.
So your child was murdered.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of parents go through that. And that's what makes this so sensitive, you know. A lot of people would say they'd rather have, you know, their child in a freak accident than be murdered. And how would you say that it changed you to this day?
I am forever changed. I'm not the same person. I used to be very, you know, let everybody, you know, I was always like an open book. I let everybody in. I always tried to find the good in people, and now I'm very reserved. For the longest time, I didn't smile. For the longest time, I hated Christmas because this happened at Christmas time. But I knew that I had her, and it got worse because it took 3.5 years for him to be arrested. And in those 3.5 years, his sister stole her away from me. There was, DCF and everything else that was involved. So I didn't only just lose my son that day, I also lost her. And they put me through hell and high water. But I don't hate them. I don't blame them.
Right.
For the longest time I did, and it made me try to find my faith again. It made me so strong. And the only way that I could go through life, because believe me, she doesn't even know this, but the night that I buried my son, I tried to commit suicide that night. And I lost all hope that I would have my kids back. So I gave up on a lot. It was a long process. It took me 6 years to get her back in full custody. And it was just it made me so determined and so strong, and I had no fear anymore. After going through pain like that, there's nothing in this world that could hurt you any worse. And I hope that no one, and I know that there's a lot of people out there that go through the same thing, it's forever life-changing. Now I worry sick about her. It made me very overprotective of her, which still am, even though she's 19. Every day, you never know that tomorrow could be your last, or today could be your last. You don't know how much time you have on this earth. And I feel the way that I was able to process everything, because when this all happened, they sent me to nuns, they sent me to therapy, and all this therapy was based upon a wife losing a husband losing a wife, losing a parent, losing a sibling. It was never based on losing a child. And I think there needs to be more of an advocacy or more of a outlet for that, because there's a lot of people out there that are going through the same thing I am.
And you don't think they're helped as they should be?
No. Because I, even like on Facebook, I see it, and it's like, been there, know that pain, like the whole Kobe Bryant, yes, she lost her husband, but she lost her child. I can relate to that pain. Right. I can't relate to losing a husband, but I can relate to her child, and it's just, I always said from the moment that this happened that my son sacrificed his life for the two of us. I really believe that, because my ex-husband was not a provider. He wasn't a violent person, but he wasn't a provider. And he was more like her buddy than a father figure. Right. And my job, I felt, was that I was supposed to protect my children. And to this day, I still feel the guilt. I feel that I didn't protect my son the way that I should have, because I still have him today. Right. So I feel like I failed him, and that's something that I'm slowly, I'm going through therapy for that, but it's, he would have been in high school, and he would have been junior when she graduated, so he would have been a sophomore, and it's every day I think about him, and every day it doesn't get easier. It doesn't.
That's That's something you'll always live with.
Always.
And
Yep.
it's tragic. It really is. How would you say, Britt, it affected you? Granted, you were little at the time, but you probably still feel the effects, correct?
Yeah, I do. Um, Honestly, it just made me rethink life, honestly, because this whole time I thought my dad was always going to be there for me, and then when I found out when I was around, you would say like 10 when I found out.
I think it was about 11 when
11?
we finally
When I
told you
was
everything.
about 11 when I finally figured out that for years my dad was lying to me, saying that he was in college and that he would come back, but the whole time he was in jail. And I found out that my brother was dead, and I really didn't know because my parents would used to say that he was with somebody else, or
No,
something like that.
no, you were staying at your aunt's house, the monster, and she didn't want you to go to the funeral. I wanted you to go there, but she did not want you there.
Yeah, and honestly, that's where a lot of my depression and anxiety comes from. And I try to hide it from a lot of people because I don't really want people to be like nosy about my business, because I usually I resort to being closed up, because when I opened up to my therapist, she just told me to just stop thinking about it and to stop reliving the past. It will eventually get over it, like I would get over it. And I'm like, it's not something to get over.
And that's what they say. That's exactly what they say. They say time heals all wounds, and you'll just get over it. Get over it.
It's messed up.
Yeah, you don't get over it. You know, you really don't get over it. You know, she basically, she always says that I'm her rock, but in a sense, she's my rock because she kept me fighting to definitely, you know, keep going. I went and got a job with the state, and it was like boom, 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 boom. I buried my son, and I went back to work the next day, and I have never stopped since.
The one good thing that came out of that, this whole storm of sadness, is that you two are unbreakable. It's like me, my parents, I love them to bits, but we're not as close as you guys are, you know? And that's the majority of parents.
I used to really be so bad that every time she left the house, freak out wasn't even the word. And now I still wait up for her to get home.
Right.
Just to make sure she pulls in the driveway, she's safe, and then I can go to bed. Because I always had that fear, and I don't know if I could overcome, if anything should ever happen to her, that would be it. There's
Your hope would be.
Yeah, there would be no hope for me at that point. That would be it. And she saved me because, like I said, the night that the funeral, the night that we the burial, you know, everybody went and did their thing. Okay, she's over. It's over. She'll be okay. You know, it's done. And going back to the butterfly thing.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry, I keep going over everything,
it's okay.
but the butterfly thing. At the funeral, I was wearing the trench coat. And remember, I told you my aunt put something shiny in my pocket. It was a stained glass blue butterfly. So the day of the burial, I'm home, and you know all these sympathy cards, and my mother's like, you gotta look at these. I'm like, I don't want to see any of this. I said I have no desire to even know what's in these cards. I said, you know, take it, just take them. But there was one card that stood out. It was just one envelope, and I opened it up, and it was the legend of the blue butterfly, which impacted me so much, even to this day. Okay. And the legend of the blue butterfly is that all butterflies are transparent, okay? And when they're blue, it's the heaven that's coming through. So when you see a blue butterfly, it is a young child coming back to talk to you. So I never seen so many butterflies in my life, but do we not? Every time there's like a significant thing in our lives,
Yeah.
Well, it's true.
there's a butterfly.
It's true. Whether it's tragic or
Yeah.
beautiful, you do often see
Yeah.
a butterfly, you know?
Yeah,
And
they always like come really close to us.
They'll
too.
land on us and like almost like stare at us. It's and I go, oh, there's Joshua.
That's
and then,
your son. Yep.
Yep.
That's your son saying hello.
Yeah.
He's still here.
Her
We know he's still
graduation-
here.
Oh yes, he's definitely here. Like for the longest time, I just started going back to the cemetery. For the longest time, I would not go
Right.
because I said, he's not there. His body is there, but he's not there. He's forever living inside of me.
The fact is, you're now moving at a point in your life probably where you're finally able to address or confront confront the tragedy. You said you're now moving on and progressing to actually seeing him, going to his tombstone, laying flowers, tributing him, you going out as a family, and you probably, the best thing that you probably could have ever happened to you too was the fact that you now pick your men
Yes.
in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
This man that I don't know about, this man's probably heavens better. It definitely taught you a lot about, what happened taught you a lot about yourself, your daughter more.
I'm forever changed.
Forever changed.
Changed.
Everything has changed about you, right?
Yes.
Who you pick to love, how you love her changes,
Mm-hmm.
how you love your son changes,
Mm-hmm.
how you view the world is different,
Mhm.
how you look at butterflies, for
Mhm.
example, little nicks and crannies that we don't pick up on because we don't, I haven't lost a child or a mother, so I don't know these ticks, but I know exactly what you guys are saying,
Yep.
and it is beautiful.
For the longest time, I could not look at little babies.
Right.
I could not look at it, and it was funny because one of my coworkers, she just had a baby, and he's his age, and when this happened, and it was the most. I needed it so badly, but I didn't know that I needed it. She had brought him in, and he just grabbed my face, and he kissed me, and he was just like this, and I'm like, and he, for a split second, it was my son. For like, I could see
And you
my
felt
son.
that emotion.
And I was just like, the tears, I was
Yeah.
bawling, and he just kept looking at me, and I was like, it was just such, and
You
she,
felt that.
yeah, I needed it.
Yeah.
And she goes, thank you. She goes, he does not do that for anybody. I go, no, thank you. I said, because I needed that. I definitely needed that.
You know what? This is fantastic. Everything that is said. Any other things? Let's have closing. I guess closing statements. We could from both of you. What would you say to your son and your brother right now? If they were still around, if he was still with us, what would you hope for him?
I'd hope that he would find a beautiful girl
Yeah.
and settle down and make me lots of grandbabies.
You got her coming. I mean, she's coming of age, so.
I would hope that he would be a respectable young man, and that he would follow in the right paths in life. And I would hope that he wouldn't follow in his biological father's figure.
Move to be a better man.
Yes. And, and just, I would thank him for blessing me.
Yeah.
I would definitely,
Yeah.
I would definitely.
He is a blessing.
He definitely.
Regardless, he is a blessing. Every
Yeah.
baby's a blessing.
Yep.
The biggest blessing you could ever think of.
Yep.
And what would you say, Brett?
I would hope that he would follow in my footsteps
Right.
mainly, and just always know that I would always be there for him, and I would be his rock, like he would be mine and hers. And just
He'd probably beat up all your boyfriends.
He would say he would not approve of that. All right, I just want to thank you guys so much for the time that you gave us, and that's my dog. I thank you guys so much for everything, and you know, hopefully you guys heal, and you continue to heal, and everything prospers so well. All right, God bless you guys.
Thank
all right,
you.
thank
Thank you.
Yep.